Hello, my name is Beck and welcome to the Twice a Year tag. I've created this tag so all the questions will be down below, and if you want to do it, please let me know because I would love to see everyone else participating. Tag me on Instagram, Twitter and YouTube. I would love to see it. This is a tag that's kind of like a check-in tag and it's done in April and August roughly every year. And so naturally, because we are at that time of year, I thought I would look back at some of the things that I've been reading and look at my goals and look at what my reading year may look like and see how I'm going with everything. So without further ado, let's get into the questions. Question number 1 is, how many books are you thinking you'll read this year? And I started the year going, I'm going to read 50 books. Previously, I was like, I'm going to read 100 books in the previous years. That hasn't really worked out for me. So for this year, I was like, let's see how 50 goes. And sure enough, I've been a few books ahead of my reading goal every time I check. So 50 is a really good number. It's pretty solid. And if I end up reading a little bit more than that, maybe I'll get to 60. But honestly, I'd be really happy with 50. So 50 seems to be on track. Question number 2 is, have you made a specific reading goal or target that you need to keep track of? And for me, I have made a few reading goals. I have a whole video about it, but the ones I can roughly remember are reading some priority books, which I know I've tackled a few because I've added them to a specific shelf on Goodreads, as well as reading the books that I already own and trying to keep that number around 20 or below. And I've done pretty well at doing those things so far, as well as continuing a couple of series, which I've also done. So as far as I'm aware, I'm doing pretty well. One of the series that I've continued is Mistborn. I've reread the first 2 books. I'm rereading the third one at the moment in preparation for The Lost Metal in November. Another one that I'm trying to keep ahead of is The Witcher. The next book in that series is on my April TBR, so hopefully the Magical Readathon doesn't cloud that over too much, but regardless, I've continued it this year and I'm happy with that. And then I've also got the Lady Astronaut series, which I did continue and end up concluding this year. I DNF'd the third book, but I read the second and really enjoyed it. So as far as that goal is concerned, I think I'm tracking pretty well. But I won't be going back to rewatch that video until obviously the end of the year. But for the moment, I think I'm doing okay. Question number 3 is, how many 5-star reads have you read this year? And this is on here because I wanted to make sure that even though I might be reading a lot of books, I wanted the quality of them to be quite high. So I've read about 5-star books this year, and out of my reading goal, I've probably read about 16 or 17 books. So I think I'm doing quite well, but 2 of those books have been rereads of the Mistborn books, and then 3 of them have been the Brown Sisters by Talia Hibbert, which are romance and not usually my thing, but every now and then I dip into contemporary, and I'm very glad I did because the conflicts in these books don't rely on cheating or miscommunication. They just rely on the past trauma of the characters and their identity crises and not saying something when they should have, which technically could be miscommunication, but it's not deliberate. And I hate deliberate miscommunication where characters withhold information in order for the overarching plot to work when the character shouldn't actually be aware that there's a plot going on. So I think these books are really smart. I can't wait to reread them, and I'm so happy that they've all been 5 stars. And I do plan on checking out more of Talia Hibbert's stuff, which is on my Goodreads, but I haven't actually made the effort to get it yet. Question number 4 is, what is a popular book that you own that you haven't read yet? And I'm usually pretty good at reading a lot of the stuff that I own because I've made sure to try and keep on top of that lately, but there are always a couple of books that creep away on my TBR, and one of them is Abaddon's Gate, which is the 3rd Expanse series book. And I know that this is going to be very detailed and long-winded in a good way because I like absorbing all of that sci-fi goodness, but at the same time I know that I need to be paying attention to it, and so instead of flitting in between other books and other rereads and doing readathons, I think this is going to be good for the last half of the year rather than the first half. So probably from June onwards you're going to see this on a TBR, but I've really enjoyed the Expanse series so far, so I'm anticipating that I'm going to enjoy this too. And then the other book that is quite popular that's on my TBR is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I got this for Christmas last year because I put it on a wish list and I have not read it yet, even though it looks absolutely gorgeous. I've heard rave reviews about it, but I honestly couldn't tell you too much of what it actually entails. I think it's just about world building and gods and maybe existential stuff as well as characters surviving. I have no idea, but I'm really excited about it regardless. I've seen positive reviews and I'm hoping that I fall on the good side rather than the meh side. Question number 5 is, do you want to do any rereads this year? And I actually do. I want to continue on with my rereads. I'm rereading Mistborn, like I said, but I'm also rereading the audiobooks of Red Rising because the first round through, I loved the trilogy, and then Iron, Gold and Dark Age were about 3 stars for me. I know my Goodreads probably says 4 stars or above because I was caught up in the hype at the time, but looking back, they'd be about a 3 stars each. So I want to go back, reread all of that, refresh my memory, and then go back and reread Iron, Gold and Dark Age because I think Pierce Brown has written the 3rd book, and at some point it's going to come out, but there's no release date yet. So I want to get refreshed before he releases any kind of news. So hopefully I time that well. And then I also want to reread Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples because I love this series and I'm obsessed with it. And I know the next volume, like the bind up volume like this, is going to come out this year. And I don't know when. I thought maybe in January, but I think that was just the individual issue because these are made up of multiple issues to one volume. So when all of the issues are out, which I've not been reading separately, when they're all out, I can continue Saga. But for the most part, I just love this art and I love flicking through this anyway. Question number 6 is, what is a new release that you're anticipating in the second half of the year? Of course, The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson, which I've already said is the next installment in Mistborn Era 2. But then I've also got Bloodmarked on my TBR, and that is the sequel to Legendborn, which is an urban fantasy secret society that I ended up loving at the end of last year. And I got on the bandwagon so late and I was on board with the hype. So I straight away pre-ordered it. I think I have a reading vlog when I first read Legendborn and I'm very excited about it. So those two for sure, but then also Play of Shadows by Sebastian de Castell, because this seems like it's had 3 or 4 different release dates and it keeps getting dangled and then taken away. So I don't actually know if it's coming out at the end half of this year because I thought it was, but it's on my TBR anyway. At some point when it does release, I'm excited to read it. And then finally, question number 7 is, what do you plan on picking up next? And do you think it's going to be 4 stars or above when you rate it? And I think that I'm going to have a decent rating with the book that I'm going to pick up next. So at the time of filming this, I'm currently reading Mistborn, so The Hero of Ages, and I'm also listening to Red Rising on audiobook. And I know that the continuations of those I'm going to rate quite highly because I love them on my first read through as well. But when it comes to my April TBR and the Magical Readathon, I know that I've got the Book of Coley on that TBR, and that is a sci-fi dystopian work about a guy who goes beyond his comfort zone, literally to a forest instead of staying behind the walls where there is safety in order to survive still because the walls have been compromised. So beyond that, I don't know anything else, but given that it's apocalyptic, I think I'm going to like it. But that is the end of this tag. Thank you so much for watching this video. Come chat to me down below in the comments and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.